Why do some of the brightest minds in history seem to have sought refuge in solitude? Is isolation a conscious choice, an inevitable destiny, or simply a natural consequence of an extraordinary mind? Philosophers like Arthur Schopenhauer dedicated their lives to exploring this question, and his vision was clear. The world, for the most part, is dominated by superficialities. For him, society was a stage where people played empty roles, preoccupied with status, gossip, and trivial disputes. In this scenario, great thinkers find little room for genuine connections, and, as a result, end up distancing themselves. But is this distancing merely a reflection of the inability to connect with others? Or is there something deeper in this relationship between genius and solitude? Observing historical figures such as Nikola Tesla, Emily Dickinson, and Isaac Newton, we notice that they not only sought solitude, but also depended on it to carry out their most innovative work. These individuals were not fleeing from the world. They were diving into themselves, exploring depths that few could reach. For them, solitude was not a curse, but a necessary privilege. Schopenhauer argued that superior intelligence creates a natural barrier between the individual and society. The sharper the mind, the harder it becomes to find people who share similar interests and perspectives. While the majority is immersed in superficial conversations and momentary concerns, the thinker seeks to understand fundamental questions about human existence. This intellectual abyss makes it nearly impossible for great thinkers to feel truly connected to the conventional world. This isolation, however, comes at a price. Prolonged solitude can lead to alienation, melancholy, and even frustration. Many of history's greatest geniuses faced moments of deep sadness, not because they were emotionally fragile, but because they saw the world in a broader and deeper way than most could ever imagine. Friedrich Nietzsche, another advocate of solitude, stated that those who gaze into the abyss are also gazed upon by it. This phrase captures the dilemma faced by great thinkers. The more you see beyond the obvious, the heavier the burden of being alone becomes. But is this isolation always negative? Schopenhauer believed it was not. For him, solitude was both an inevitable consequence of genius and an opportunity for personal growth. He saw isolation as a space where the thinker could free themselves from external distractions and dive into profound reflections. Instead of trying to adapt to social conventions, the great thinker should accept their condition and transform it into a refuge for creativity and self-knowledge. As he wrote, "Happiness belongs to those who are self-sufficient." This view finds parallels in other philosophies such as Buddhism, which teaches that attachment to social interactions and the illusions of the material world often leads to suffering. For Schopenhauer, as for Buddhists, true progress occurs when we detach ourselves from external distractions and turn inward. In the silence of solitude, the brilliant mind finds space to flourish, free from the pressures and expectations of social life. However, not everything is perfect in this refuge. Humans by nature are social animals. The need for belonging is part of our biology, and the absence of meaningful connections can generate anguish. Even the greatest thinkers, like Nietzsche and Beethoven, experienced moments of pain caused by the lack of understanding from the outside world. But at the same time, it was this very solitude that allowed them to produce immortal works, such as Beethoven's symphonies or Nietzsche's writings. So, how can one balance the desire for introspection with the need for connection? Schopenhauer proposed a practical solution: philosophical detachment. He suggested that great thinkers should learn to interact with the world without losing themselves in it. Instead of fighting against social mediocrity, they should observe it with neutrality, as a scientist observes a natural phenomenon. This attitude allows the thinker to participate in daily life without being affected by its trivialities. It is a way of filtering what truly matters and discarding what is irrelevant. To illustrate this, consider Gregory Perelman, the mathematician who solved the Poincare conjecture and then rejected prizes and fame, preferring to live in seclusion. Or take H.P. Lovecraft, whose works explored the unknown while he himself avoided public life. These examples show that isolation is not only a characteristic of past geniuses, but also a conscious choice of brilliant contemporary minds. Moreover, we can draw parallels with modern psychology. Studies on introverts reveal that highly reflective individuals tend to feel overwhelmed in intense social environments. For them, solitude is not just a refuge, but a biological necessity. This explains why so many thinkers feel disconnected at parties or social events, where conversations revolve around superficial topics. This strategy remains relevant today, in a world saturated with superficial information and digital distractions. Knowing how to discern what deserves our attention is a crucial skill. Like Schopenhauer, we can learn to navigate social interactions without losing ourselves in them. The key is to maintain our mental independence, preserving our ability to think deeply while remaining strategically connected to the world. If you've made it this far, you've probably realized that solitude doesn't have to be seen as a punishment, but as an opportunity. It offers the thinker the necessary space to explore ideas without external interference, while challenging them to find a balance between introspection and coexistence. As Schopenhauer taught us, solitude is both a destiny and a choice. It's up to each of us to decide how to use it to our advantage. Now reflect, would you rather adapt to the world or preserve your intellectual freedom, even if it means walking alone? If this video made you think, share your opinion in the comments. And if you want to keep exploring topics like this, subscribe to the channel and check out our upcoming content. Remember, the real challenge isn't avoiding solitude, but learning to live with it. As Schopenhauer said, the problem isn't solitude, but the wrong company. Think about it.